Hey friends, it's Sunday again. Another chance for me to talk to you about John's Revelation. And this week, I'm going to share a couple thoughts from chapter 4, which is the beginning of John's formal vision and this picture of a kind of grand worship service. And let's look at it for just a second. He says that John looked and behold a door standing open in heaven. So he looks up and he sees this door standing open in heaven. And he's looking into heaven, and then in the spirit he's in heaven. And then this vision is going to shed light on reality. And I was thinking about a way to explain this, and I thought, remember, in The Wizard of Oz, there's a famous scene where at the end, they go to find the wizard, and he's this big green thing, and then they get behind a curtain. It's just a small guy. Behind the curtain was a deception, something small and unimportant. But the opposite is true in John's Revelation. When we see behind the curtain of reality, it's bigger and more expansive and more real. In fact, this is reality, and it flips the stage so that what we are doing looks more like the play. I remember that Lewis says in the last battle, when the children are thrown into the stable, that it's bigger on the inside. And I think what we're dealing with here is a heaven that we go through a door, but it's bigger on the inside. Now we're actually at the center of reality, and we're looking out, and all of our politics and stupidity and the evil of our world are just play actors on a stage, second fiddle, third fiddle deals to the real thing going on, which is this worship service happening in heaven perpetually. And I think that's really important for us. Now, I think there's a couple things that this matters for, and there's so much to say, and I'm not going to be able to say all of it looking at the text in front of me, but maybe one of the most important things is to say that if you went to worship today, it's Sunday, or you go to worship tonight or tomorrow or another day, you've never in your life started a worship service. You haven't. The worship service is the one going on in heaven right now. That's the real worship service. You are joining in to that worship service. And this is a couple important consequences for us as we think about this. One, you don't have to drum up the energy for worship. You don't have to make worship a thing, a manipulative thing with frankly, light shows and key changes and fog lights, fog machines to drum up the energy to get you excited. No. You're joining into this worship service in heaven, which is already much bigger and stronger and huger than anything going on earth. And that's pretty awesome. It means that the focus of the worship is on the King and joining in with what's happening around his throne in heaven right now. But another thing that's really helpful for us, especially if we open the door in heaven and have this light come down, is that it doesn't matter what size your church is. If you are alone and you begin to worship the King of Kings, you're joining into this heavenly worship service. And if you're in a church with 10,000 people and the fog machine and the light show and the paid musicians and all that stuff, the most you're doing is joining into the great heavenly worship service. And if you're doing something that takes away from that heavenly worship service, then, well, you're not worshiping the King of Kings. And if you're in a church of 30 people gathered around with a slightly out of tune guitar and maybe someone who forgets the lyrics all the time, it doesn't matter. You're joining into this heavenly worship service. And if our focus is on this worship service, on the King of Kings and what's really going on, then we are offering true and authentic worship to the King of Kings. And this gives us, I think, great hope and great perspective, depending on where we are and the size of our churches and what we're doing. We're worshiping the same God, participating in that heavenly worship. And that's our goal as a people. So anyway, a door open in heaven, light shining on our reality, giving fresh insight into who we are. This is what John's Revelation is all about. And I hope this has been helpful today. Every blessing.